If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 341 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Ralph Ragnick of Irish Mixed Martial Arts Media, Graeme McDonald, as we talk about maybe the most insane night in the history of mixed martial arts last night. As UFC 269 went down, Cage Warriors as well happened. There's a card coming up next week, but I think you could probably guess what we're going to talk about, and it's going to be absolutely, it's going to be insane. I can't wait. I have a lot of different thoughts. I'm sure Graeme has a lot of thoughts as well, so we will get into that. But we must tell you that it's holiday season. That means there are stockings to be stuffed and elves to be cuffed. Well, today's sponsor, Manscaped, has gone global with the tools to guarantee you will score under the tree and the mistletoe. Manscaped is leader in men's below the waist grooming, and they have served 4 million men worldwide. If my math is correct, that's almost 8 million balls. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. Ho, 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 gents, not here nice. 'Tis the season to perform. Manscaped's best-selling product is the Performance Package 4.0, was at the very top of every man's list. I know people will be going out now and, over Christmas, running out, stay out till not too long, but you want to be, you want to be prim and proper if you're going back quickly afterwards, so get your, inside that Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Lawnmower Body Trimmer. It's the best trimmer on the market for your balls, butt and body. Also, you'll have the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. The liquid formulations as well are in that. You have the Crop Preserver and the Ball Reviver Ball Toner to maximize your ball hygiene routine. There's also 2 free gifts, the Boxers from Manscaped and the Shed Travel Bag, which I knew was there going to Bellator a few weeks ago. Absolutely feckin' fantastic. The dads can't stop talking about this. The teens buy it secretly and the women will love you for it. Now, these are our Manscaped picks for surefire wins this as stocking stuffers. The Manscaped cologne, which fantastic. I actually have one upstairs. I know who I'll give it to. I don't know. I'll give it to someone for Christmas. The Shears 2.0 luxury 4-place nail kit, which I know my missus bought me one. She's like, cut the fucking nails. The Crop Mop ball wipes for shanky balls. They're brilliant. Crop Reviver ball toner and refresher as well is fantastic. Small enough to fit in a stocking bag, big enough to change a man's life. I'd also add in there the mints as well. Those mints, I love them. They'd be great stocking fillers with the free shipping as well. That's absolutely fantastic. So you're just, you're like, you're buying it in a shop or whatever, because it doesn't cost anything to get to you. So there you go. These formulations are all vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, sulfate-free and paraben-free, so their products are legit. Make sure you hurry to their site to ensure these wild gifts show up before the holiday season, and while you're there, get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SEVEREMMA. Whether this is your partner, dad, brother, friend, get them something that they will actually use and almost sure to get a laugh from. So get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SEVEREMMA. Be the ballsiest gift giver this year with our friends over at Manscaped. Right, Graeme, let's get straight into it. Look, we have to start with Amanda Nunes. That's the only place to start. We'd be in the wrong if we didn't start there. If you haven't seen it, if you've been living under a rock, if you're getting your results from us, if you haven't watched the pay-per-view over in America or something, God, no, I won't.
Just stop now and go back and watch it.
Stop now. But if you're coming to us for your results, I know some people do that. I know some people don't watch much MMA anymore and just kind of listen to podcasts to get their results. But what happened on Saturday night in the co-main event was Amanda Nunes, the greatest woman to ever fight in mixed martial arts, lost to Juliana Pena, who was a massive underdog. Maybe we can get into it, but for my money, the greatest shock in the history of mixed martial arts, I think it overtakes Serra versus Pena. I know some people were saying, Matt Serra was supposed to be out of the UFC and George St. Pierre was the champion and he won a season of tough to get on, and absolutely. But I think...
And he was underweight as well.
Yeah, indeed. But there was ways I think people kind of could see for Serra to possibly have like a puncher's chance or a jiu-jitsu chance.
Wasn't quite GSP, the established star, like unbeatable machine.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. he, as you say, he wasn't the GSP that we came to know by the end of it. He wasn't that, that top fighter went on to be the double champion. Yes, no, he was still very, very good at time. But Amanda Nunes right now is like the best fighter of all time at the very apex of her game. Like I described her last week as like Michael Schumacher in the 90s or the 2000s, lapping people and just winning like 7 world championships in a row. That's what Amanda Nunes is right now. She's at the very, 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 very top of her game. And she was beaten by a complete underdog. So it's a little bit different. Fighter versus fighter, okay, maybe you could compare them, but I think to where Amanda Nunes is, I think it definitely is. Now, look, it's an argument, and maybe you put them 1 or 2, or maybe, some people would put Holm and Rousey up there. I wouldn't at all, because I was kind of half expecting Holm to win that one. I think that was maybe a 50-50 or a 60-40 fight. So this was more like a 98-2 sort of fight, if I put it that way. Like, I know last week, and I put up the clip on Saturday night on Twitter, and I kind of said what I said there. The biggest issue maybe for Amanda Nunes might be Amanda Nunes herself. Her kind of getting
becoming all too easy, kind of we talked about, yeah.
Just too easy, yeah. And like, who's going to be next? Instead, Kayla Harrison was sitting there cage side. There was talks of Valentina Shevchenko. Not just overlooking Pena, but overlooking her career in general. Now, Pena came out afterwards in her press conference, and she was like, I heard Amanda Nunes wasn't training. And it's like, it's funny, Dana White kind of alluded to the fact that she wasn't training, and kind of Rogan said it sometimes as well. But you wouldn't know. I don't know. I feel like Dana White isn't the biggest Amanda Nunes fan for some reason. But we can leave that to the side for a second. What do you think? Like, it's easy to come in here, right, and say Amanda Nunes did absolutely, no training, she wasn't prepared, she overlooked Juliana Pena. Or it would be easy to come in here and go, look, Juliana Pena was just better than her on the night, she's maybe a better fighter than her, maybe she's the next era or whatever. But I think maybe it's a combination. What do you think?
Yeah, well, like, I think if you put the rematch together for 2 months' time, I'm picking Amanda Nunes. Absolutely. But it was a brilliant performance from Pena. I think Amanda Nunes definitely got noticeably tired and kind of desperate in the fight really early. I think I would kind of buy into the fact that it all got a bit too easy, and she thought it was going to be a bit of a cruise, and she was kind of rudely awakened. And if she went in there with a better game plan, even with the level of dedication that she possibly had in the camp or didn't have in the camp, if she went in with a better game plan to just strike with her earlier and not kind of play into her game a bit more, and not kind of not kind of let Pena get her game going. But yeah, I think it probably is more of it all got a bit too easy for Amanda Nunes, and she probably was. They always talk about it. Soccer managers always talk about it. That we're just focusing on the next game. If you're looking beyond, you're not concentrated as hard as you should be, as focused as you should be. So obviously that's a rude awakening for her. But I think actually in the long run, this is going to be a good thing for her. It's going to be a great thing for the division. It's going to be a good thing for her, and it leads to some more interesting fights. Obviously the rematch, the Shevchenko match, there's probably be a bit more interest in that one, a bit more, a few more people. Not sure which way that would go. I think it just opens up a lot of fights for the UFC in that division and for Amanda Nunes. And everybody likes a comeback story. If you're on top for too long, it can get a bit boring. People just expect you to go in and win, and maybe they're not as excited as they will be now for this rematch with Pena. So in the long run, I think this is actually going to be a good thing for Amanda Nunes.
It's funny because I kind of said that last week, on the podcast. I was like, maybe she could go in there and tap, and then everything will be better. You'll have a big rematch, and that's kind of what we have now. And you're right. Like, I suppose the question I put to myself: could this be the end for Amanda Nunes? Like, could this be her at the very top, the end of it? And I got. It could be. Like, I feel like, and the second the fight was over, I felt like, no. I felt like she needed this. I felt like she needed maybe, not necessarily a kick up the arse, but something to kind of
if she came in and looked like herself and got beaten, you'd be like, oh, maybe the game has caught up with her or whatever. But she didn't. She looked awful, really. Like, she tapped to a no hooks rear naked choke, basically.
Wasn't even in.
Yeah, after
we'll get to that in a second. Yeah,
very desperate. You know what I mean? Yeah. If she had to come in and done her thing the way we know she can do her thing, and had lost the way she lost, then okay, maybe I'd be more inclined to lean that way. But I do think it was a bad day at the office, a bad camp, looking past her, all that stuff combined with maybe it all being a bit too easy, and obviously a good performance from her opponent.
That's what I was just about to say. You were kind of comparing it to a soccer team where they all often have a bad night, but the opponent has to be in the right mind frame. Like, even if you look at Man United yesterday, Norwich, Man United were rubbish, but Norwich weren't good enough to beat them. Go back a few weeks ago, and when Man United played Watford, Man United had a similarly bad performance, and Watford were up for it and beat them 4-1. So the opponent has to be a part of it as well. The opponent has to be willing and able to beat her. And Pena
was. The confidence grows as she's hitting Nunes. The crowd are going crazy. She's like, much more comfortable than we've seen anybody striking with Amanda Nunes in a long time. Even much better strikers than her, because the momentum, everything is like it. You can't. It's kind of an untangible, but it's a huge swing of confidence and momentum, and which is huge in MMA.
Those ones where you're watching it, and I don't know if you were the same, but I just didn't believe what I was seeing in front of my eyes. I just and sometimes I'm kind of I've trained myself with the whole judging thing and everything, talking about that, to very much look at fights as fighter A versus fighter B, and the shots landing versus the shots landing, or the submissions, or whatever it might be. And even in this, I've very much found myself thinking like, holy shit, is she actually landing those shots? Is she actually doing this? And you kind of, you don't want to really, sometimes you just don't want to admit it to yourself, because you're like, I look like a fool if I say this, and then it ends up actually happening, and ends up being in a finish, and it's just like, what did that actually happen? I had to go back and watch the fight and kind of recalibrate my brain to watch it again. It's insane.
It's funny, I don't even some of the shots I think that landed, they didn't have a huge impact, but they just flustered Nunes and just made her panic. It wasn't like these were huge impactful strikes. There was a few in there. Like, there was a few good strikes, but I think it was just the kind of disbelief or the panic that maybe being punched in the face constantly, unexpectedly, when you've had it all your own way for so long.
I think that's exactly it. The fact that she didn't have it her own way. Like, Juliana Pena made every second that fight a fight. Like, there was one stage where the fight went to the ground and Amanda Nunes got on top, and Rogan and Cormier and all, they were like, oh, this is where she shines, this is where she's going to do damage and all this, she's an amazing grappler, and perfect, fine. But they failed to look at the fact that Juliana Pena had her arm, and this is before the Kimura now, before that, she had her arm, like 2 hands on one arm, and she almost got an armbar on it. And it was so weird. They were calling the armbar for Amanda Nunes, when it was Amanda Nunes' arm that was almost getting armbarred. It was bizarre. Go back and watch it. It's Juliana Pena pulling down on her arm, on Amanda Nunes' arm, because she had the 2-on-1. Now, it wasn't your normal armbar.
I don't think there was any real risk of the armbar either way.
My point is, she was fighting at all times. There was no second. Even when they got the fight against the cage, and Amanda Nunes kind of showed she was stronger, immediately Pena kind of turned. She got that arm.
Yeah, she never settled. She never settled. Yeah.
Refused to settle. Every time Amanda Nunes threw a shot, Juliana Pena threw a shot back. She was not afraid of her for 1 second in there, and that's the biggest issue. We said it about after the Sinead Kavanagh-Cyborg fight a couple of weeks ago, that Sinead Kavanagh she came out on the wrong side of it, but she did the right thing. She wasn't afraid of her. She went in there and struck, and look, the same thing could have happened to Juliana Pena as happened to Sinead Kavanagh last night, but it didn't, because she got through it, and she got through the little bit she needed to get through, or the big bits even that she needed to get through, and then Amanda Nunes just wilted, and she just refused to go away, and she was there and there. Now, there's no doubt about it, Amanda Nunes' shots didn't have the same flair on them that they've had before. She looked way off. From the very start, she was kind of getting stumbled just because she was walking over her own feet, and there was shots landing right down the middle. Like, who jabs up Amanda Nunes? And even, you were saying that some shots weren't even landing. They weren't. Like, a lot of those jabs were either kind of hitting her in the neck or just going past her head, but she still seemed to be flustered by them. She just wasn't expecting shots to come back, or it looked to someone like me who just kind of turned up to get their belt and bring it back home. Like, she was not expecting any sort of a fight in there at all. And you know what she got? She got every sort of fucking fight. Pena refused to give up, and Amanda Nunes didn't refuse to give up. She gave up. I'll make no mistake about that. She 100% gave up in the end of that fight. Juliana Pena took the fight out of her. Make no mistake about it. She put her to a place where she quit, and she did quit. She 100%. And Amanda Nunes, this is not just me saying it. If you listen to the post-fight interview in the cage, Amanda Nunes said, there was some things I thought I'd gotten out of my game, and I haven't. They're back. They came back tonight. And I know she was probably talking about cardio and everything like that, but I think she was talking about that as well. She quit in there. She tapped before that was in. She will tell you that herself. I guarantee you she'll go back and watch it. You look at, and fatigue has a lot to do with it as well. But she gave up in there, and Juliana Pena beat the fight out of her. And Amanda Nunes, she beat the fight out of her, but Amanda Nunes didn't have the fight in her on that night. And whether that's a thing you can get back, that, like, the skill side of it and the preparation side of it are something she can, absolutely get back. But the want and the desire, if someone comes in and does that to him again, we talk about the silk sheets all the time. Okay, she doesn't have Conor McGregor money, but she's a lot of money for someone, I think, who, I heard the people talking about she's living on a farm and things like that, doesn't spend a lot of money, doesn't live high or anything like that, unlike a certain Conor McGregor, she has a lot of money and plenty of money to live the rest of her life out. Is that a thing? Is that going to be a thing? Like, should we start having those conversations as well? And this is a big thing.
Yeah.
Go on. What do you think about the quitting part, though? Do you think she quit in the end?
Yeah, I do think she just, I do think, it's clear to see she didn't really have the back properly. She was kind of on her back, didn't have any hooks, didn't really even have the choke that deep, and she tapped very quickly. I think she definitely just gave up. But I was going to ask you before you said that, do you think it was a case of she wasn't mentally prepared for the camp or for the fight, or do you think it's like, she's achieved everything now and everything that she set out to, and it's just hard to get yourself focused and be as obsessed with the game? Like, we've talked about it a lot when it comes to Conor, but maybe Amanda Nunes is in the same predicament. I think that this will give her a kick up the arse that she maybe needed to go back in there and, refocus herself. But, this is going to give a lot of confidence to Juliana Pena and to other fighters who are going in against Amanda Nunes that she is beatable. You don't have to be afraid in there. So it's going to be tougher, but I do think that most likely she will be able to rededicate herself if she, maybe she doesn't want to, but it seemed in the post-fight interview that she said she's going to get back to training and, improve herself. So it seems that's what she wants to do. So I would back her to go back in there against Pena and get the title back. But, it's definitely something in her mind now, if things start going badly, maybe this will creep back in. She obviously worked hard to kind of get this side of her game kind of patched up or fixed up. And, maybe now it'll be on her mind. And, a lot of the fight is won and lost in your mind.
Yeah, I look, to answer your question, I suppose, is it her head falling out of the game, or is it her bad preparation? I think it's probably one leads to the other. I think she probably thought, well, this is easy, I don't have to prepare as hard as I once did, or not even that. Maybe just it was in the back of her mind all the time, or subconsciously she thought that, and then that leads to this. Like, I think with Conor it's a little bit different because, okay, there was probably times, people heard rumours or whatever that he wasn't training or he was injured or whatever, but you could probably attest to this more than anything. I think for his last 2 or 3 camps, apart from when he was injured, he was in there and he was training all the time, and I didn't really hear, you'd hear rumours before, but over the last few camps, apart from injuries, I don't think I think he was in there training all the time. It's just that motivation, or maybe it's not the same, when you're that rich, when you've everything so easy, and you're not in the same place, maybe with the same bodies and everything like that. I think so. From that side of it, I think it's easier for Amanda Nunes to kind of get back. Like, Amanda Nunes is not living in yachts. She's not out in fucking Dubai. She's not drinking shots with fucking Johnny Depp over in Rome. Like, she's not living that life. So it might be a little bit easier for her to get back to it. But I definitely, the mind is a strange thing. Like, you can be the most physical and the most brilliant fighter we've ever seen, the most technical, tactical fighter we've ever seen, but the second that mind goes, and the second you're not prepared mentally for it, it can all go very much belly up. Like, it's funny, there's this lady that works with the Limerick Hurlers. Her name is Caroline Currett, and she's like their mind coach, and she's won like 3 All-Irelands now with Limerick. I think she won one with Clare, she won one with Tyrone, she won one with 2 or 3 with Dublin. I think she's won like 13 All-Irelands or something like that with different teams. Is that just a fucking luck? Is that just blind luck? She was there at the right year at the right time? I don't think so. Like, I think something like that, it really, really matters, especially for sports people, because, like, sports people, it's very, very tough to do it day in, day out. That's why I always say, in a press conference, someone says something, I don't think it makes much of a difference. If McGregor and Aldo meet in a press conference 6 months before, I think he forgets about it and it doesn't make any difference. But I think your thoughts day in, day out, like, am I still the best? Is this person I'm going up against the best? Does it really matter? Am I just going to win anyway? Like, those thoughts, when they get into your head, they're very, very difficult to get back out of it. And if you don't have that side of your mind right, as it seems like is the case here with Amanda Nunes, and look, take no credit away from Juliana Pena or anything like that, but that's a big, big thing to adjust. And, as we both kind of said here, we fancy her to adjust. But let's see if she actually
I'm
does
really looking forward to seeing the rematch, or if it doesn't happen, to seeing Amanda Nunes' next fight, because, you'd think they have to put the rematch together, but maybe there'll be injuries or stuff like that. But either way, I'm very interested to see what she looks like in her next fight.
Yeah, indeed. And, Kayla Harrison was sitting there cage side as well. It's going to be interesting what happens with her now, because she obviously looked like she was going to sign for the UFC. Amanda Nunes is still the 145-pound champion, so maybe they could still do that fight, but I don't think you can now at the moment. Maybe they get her in, get her another fight. Maybe they just get her in, have her weight, have Amanda Nunes fight for 135-pound title, and then fight Kayla Harrison. But does Kayla Harrison want to sit around? She's not the youngest either, so I don't know, maybe they have to recalibrate that situation. But it's a very, very interesting time. We went from last week talking about Amanda Nunes having no fights or overlapping people, to Nunes now having Harrison, having Pena, and as you said, maybe questions now, can Shevchenko beat her if they fight again?
Yeah,
because that's a
well,
different
even before
fight,
I said, I did say that Shevchenko it'd be a very different fight, it'd be a much closer fight, and that Shevchenko could beat her. So, there definitely is some fights for her, but this really opens up the divisions. It really opens up. It really opens up a lot of fights, and as I said, it'll give a lot of confidence to other fighters in the division that Amanda Nunes isn't this unbeatable. Yeah, exactly.
I think the same thing, to make the Conor comparison again, the same thing happened to him. I think if Diaz hadn't beaten him, I don't think Paria would have beaten him. It was one of those, and we will obviously. A good transition, I suppose. Let's talk about Dustin Paria and Charles Oliveira. So, look, it was, I suppose my overriding feeling after this fight, we get to the fight in a second, but I felt a little bit sorry for Dustin Paria. I was like, I don't think it'll be the last chance. I'll put it that way first of all. I don't think it'll be his last chance to fight for the belt, and he's held the interim title as well. But it seems like it's just a bit of a shame. You see this a lot with different fighters when they get to a certain part of their career where they've had those opportunities, they miss out on those opportunities, and you just think, like, is it ever going to happen for them again? And like even guys like Paria who've kind of reached to the top, even say, like, someone like a Cormier who, okay, he got the fight against Steve, went back and he lost it again, and then the Jones one, he lost it, and then he lost to him a second time. A Bisping, he was almost on the precipice, and he ended up getting it. Like, the two of them, I suppose, are good examples for him, who do end up being like the champions in the end. But then you've guys, say, like a Kenny Florian, who's gotten there a load of times and wasn't able to get over, or a Cowboy who wasn't able to get over the line. And the issue these days as well is, and maybe this is a topic for Speaker's Corner over on Patreon with Harry, but the level of fighter today is a lot better, obviously, than the level of fighter down through the years. So the level of fighter who's not reaching the very top, who's not going to hold gold, is going to be better than ever, especially in a division like this, or say like a Colby Covington, an interim champion as well. But that level of fighter is so good that we're looking at, you're not quite good enough. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous.
Yeah, even in the lightweight division, like, Justin Gaethje, like, he may get there, but he may not, Yeah. And for all the kind of skills and everything he brings to a fight, in previous years he probably would have been the champion for years. But this is such a stacked division at this time. There's so many hard, well-rounded guys. It's as you say, it's going to end up where some guys who maybe you think would become champions and maybe even nearly deserve to be champions won't be champions, because it's just that much of a shark tank in there.
Yeah, we put in our picks earlier this week, and I picked Oliveira, and I kind of said to Andy, who was doing the picks, like, give me a couple of days, I might change that. And then I didn't. And I was thinking, I thought a lot about it over those couple of days. Obviously, I was doing my betting show and different things as well. And, talking on the preview with Andy and Harry on Friday. And I don't know, it came into my head that Paria isn't going to reach that level. It's a weird thing, it's a weird, and maybe I'm completely wrong, maybe I'm totally off the mark, but I just felt like Oliveira has already reached that level, if you get me. He's already reached a championship level, even if it wasn't against someone as good as Paria, but he's already reached that level. He's gotten to the very, very top. He's climbed that mountain, and okay, it might be tough to reclimb that mountain, but I think the fact that Paria still has like that, we talked about mentality a while ago, and he still has that mental block. And last week we said the opposite, so I must, correct myself, because, to go in there and fight McGregor twice and get over that mental block that he obviously had losing to McGregor previously, that caused him a lot of issues. I thought getting over that might be the fact for him to get over this. Now, I actually don't think it's maybe a mental thing here, to be honest, but me picking the fight and me going for my pick, that was it. I just felt like that little bit of an X factor was going Charles Oliveira's way, and I think Dustin Paria, it's to overlook that, I just couldn't do it, and it was weird. And I don't think it played out that way. We'll get into the fight, but it just, sometimes you have a feeling with a fighter that they're not going to take that final step, and they're not going to get over it. And okay, they get big fights and big wins like McGregor and like others, but to get that title, even if it's against someone like Oliveira, who is, who's not Khabib, or who's not, the long reigning champion, a very, very good champion, a very, very good fighter, but it just was in the back of my head. But the fight itself, it was very, very interesting, because I thought Paria started way better than I had expected. Even I thought, like, we spoke on the preview, myself and lads, and us last week as well, about how hard it was going to be for Paria maybe to establish his game early. And we talked about the Man City versus Liverpool stuff, where his game was more about control maybe, but I did think he was able to control it early enough. He made Oliveira respect him with his power at the very, very start, and it pulled Oliveira directly out of his game. Oliveira wasn't coming forward at a rate of knots. He wasn't throwing big flying knees. He wasn't throwing big right hands. But what he was doing was meeting Paria right in the middle and throwing those lovely knees to the body. And those knees were the biggest shots of the fight. Make no mistake about it. Paria came out afterwards and he said, they didn't hurt, they didn't affect me. They fucking did. They absolutely did. And that was a big reason that Charles Oliveira was able to stick in there. He took a load of shots, and I think at one stage, or a couple of stages, maybe he could have been overwhelmed. And in the past, I think he probably would have thrown in the towel and been overwhelmed himself. But I think we can forget about the in-cage mentality or the weak chin of Charles Oliveira. And we could say the same about in-cage for Dustin Paria as well. I think we can throw that out. But he didn't give up, and he kept himself in there. And my point about being overwhelmed, I think the knees stopped him from being overwhelmed. I think just having that little bit of a shot on him, and that front kick he hit him with to the liver as well at one stage, I just think he kept Dustin Paria, honest at crucial times in that first round, and he refused to make it a 10-8 round, if you get me. He refused to make it a round where Paria was absolutely dominant. Now, he did win it, but I just think that, what did you think of that first round and the start of the fight before we go any further, I suppose?
Well, Dustin Paria definitely was getting the better of the striking. I did notice, though, that he started slowing down quite quickly. The intensity and the pace of the fight the volume he was throwing was a lot. I think, I don't know the numbers on it, but I didn't see any numbers on it, but he threw a lot of volume and he landed a lot of shots. And I think maybe about a minute left in the first round, he did look a bit tired already. And, he said in the post fight, or in the in cage interview, that he kind of got away from his game plan of trying to drag it long. But I think a lot of that was due to Oliveira. Dustin Paria maybe thought, this is my chance to put this guy away. And, historically, maybe, as you said, maybe Oliveira would have thrown in the towel, but I think Paria never landed that big sequence that he needed. And it kind of looked like the fight was Oliveira's at the end of the first round, even though Paria had kind of clearly won the first round, just because I think Paria kind of thrown everything at him and Oliveira was still there. So, credit to Oliveira. He definitely had a really good fight, but I do think Paria, maybe the fight game plan got away from him a bit, as he referenced in his post fight, just because maybe the the magnitude of the moment. He thought, if I just get the right flurry here, I'll be the champion, and kind of got caught up in the moment a little bit, maybe. Yeah. But it's obviously easy to say afterwards, because, you know, if he did land the right punch in that moment, then he is the champion, you know, and everybody's lauding him as taking out the champion in the first round by knockout. So it's a game of inches.
Yeah, 100%. I had my thought wasn't maybe the same as you. I didn't think maybe, oh, this is Oliveira's fight now, but I did kind of think, oh, this is kind of Michael Chandler all over again. If you get me, he's like, he's come through that, he's going to keep coming. And I think your point about the output is a very good one, because Oliveira is used to that output in these last few fights. That's the way he fights. Now Paria, and we've spoken about it with Paria before. I think he gets a very good second wind. We've seen it in the Max Holloway fight as well, but he does tire early. I think McGregor's a little bit the same as well. You know, we saw him tiring in the Diaz second fight, and he comes back later on. But they do, I think they both tire. I think, look, McGregor's worse, but I think Paria definitely does tire early in fights, but can get that second wind.
But when you're throwing big, with potential of like trying to finish the fight with big punches, it's a lot of energy you're throwing.
Yeah, absolutely. The second round in, though, I just thought, and this is where I thought about maybe the mental side of it. It felt like, and myself and the lads did the preview show on Friday night, and I kind of alluded to the fact that I thought maybe Paria wouldn't get overwhelmed with the jiu-jitsu or lose the jiu-jitsu game badly, and I was badly wrong in that in the end. But I didn't think he'd have such a fear of Oliveira. Like, Paria is very good.
I was going to say that. Yeah, he had way too much respect for Oliveira's game, and kind of it was what, 3.5 minutes to go, and he was trying to hold on for a stand up or hold on for the end of the round. It was like, what the fuck are you doing
that's
here?
Fine if it's the last minute maybe, or even 90 seconds in a round you're already losing or something. Like, yeah, no problem, hold on, you're going to lose that round anyway, just don't get fucking submitted, don't give up your back. But then the fact he did that for like a full round, and then at the start of the next round, the same thing happened again. Not the same thing necessarily, but he kind of gave up his back, even a worse position. It just felt like he was so negative, and he just, some people talk about that. I prepare so much to not get into that position, then I do get into the position and I panic a little bit. And I don't think he necessarily panicked, but it just felt like it was in his brain that he was going to lose in this position if it got to that position, and he did. And the disc choke, we can't say nothing about disc choke not being fully in, because it absolutely was. But I don't know, I feel like if that was Dustin Paria against someone just as good as Charles Oliveira, or Charles Oliveira himself, and he hadn't thought about it so much, he would have not let that hand slip in under the chin.
With no name, with the exact skill set and output and everything of Charles Oliveira, and he probably would have fought completely different, and it would have most likely, not been as bad a round and as huge a momentum. And obviously Oliveira taking a lot of confidence from that, and it was just a really odd decision and really, really bad, I think.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was very, very weird. Like, I think, like, if you're Dustin Paria, I think you're going to look back at that with regret. You look back, and he's always joking about he didn't regret going for the guillotine against Habib, but I think, personally, he probably does. I think maybe not necessarily the second round, where he stood he stayed in the guard, or he closed his full guard, or had a body triangle even from the bottom for like 3 minutes. But I think the second round where there was a bit of panic there. And look, it's easy to fucking panic. You've Charles Oliveira in your back, don't get me wrong. But Dustin Paria is very, very good as well, and he's very good jiu-jitsu. He can defend rear naked choke, but it just felt like he wasn't doing the fundamentals of the rear naked choke defense correctly. And, he literally said in the post-fight, oh, his arm slipped underneath it. I wouldn't expect it. It's like, jeez, what the fuck were you expecting? Him to go for an ice cream and bring you back one night or something? Like, it was, I don't know, it was just a bit bizarre to me. But look, give credit to Charles Oliveira. As we both said, absolute war he came through in the first, landed a lot of big shots. Most lads in that division, I'd say if there are 50 lads in that division, maybe 45 of them wouldn't have come through that first round against Paria, and he did, and he kept coming. He won the second, got on top. Those elbows in the second were absolutely raw, the way he was landing them. They weren't cutting elbows, they were hurtful fucking elbows.
Yeah, with Paria's head against the mat, canvas with nowhere to go. They're big shots, people maybe think these cutting shots are the ones that cut open cuts on your face are the big ones, and they showed damage or whatever, but those elbows that Oliveira are landing are so much more harmful, I think, and impactful. Yeah,
they're absolutely raw and brilliant stuff. But he won that round, and he went into obviously the third, and you know, it was pretty easy in the third. How long did it go? A minute and 2 seconds. And it was just all his, as we mentioned, he got the back and was able to get in the choke. And that was that really for Charles Oliveira. What a fighter he is though. Like, I think, you know, we spoke about, Aldo a couple of weeks ago and his ability to adjust after the, you know, in the middle of the fight or after the first tough 3 minutes against, Rob Font. I think Charles Oliveira, his ability to adjust almost immediately in that fight was fantastic. I really, really do think it was. He was not able to fight his game at any stage during that fight. His striking game anyway. Now his jiu-jitsu game obviously he did in the end. And even, you know, in the second round, his jiu-jitsu game was nullified because of the way Paria fought. But he still, you know, he's still stuck in there and he still won the majority of that fight if we look back on it, you know, as a whole. So what a fighter, an extremely, extremely good fighter. Interesting. You know, like, people are talking about what's going to be next for him and who's going to be next. And, you know, a lot of people are saying Gaethje are then the winner of Makhachev versus Dariush. I'd rather it be that than Gaethje, to be honest. I know Gaethje had a great fight and a great win the last time, but and that it'll be a great fight against Oliveira, so don't get me wrong, the fight will come up and I'll be absolutely ecstatic for it and excited. But I wouldn't mind Gaethje getting one more and then fighting him. He's probably not going to do that, but I don't know. I felt like they kind of made a wrong decision here with the Makhachev-Dariush fight. I think they should have given Dariush the title fight, given both Makhachev and Gaethje another fight, and then line them up, or maybe, you know, maybe have the two of them fight each other.
Does Dariush have the same drawing power, the same excitement levels as the Gaethje? Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't think he does. No, I don't think he does either. Maybe it's because I'm a big fan of his and I think he's good, but I think he deserves it as well. I think he's done enough, and he's an easy one to forget, you know. But the fights he's had and the performances he's had over the last few years, I think are enough. But yeah, it looks like Gaethje's going to get. Look what a fight that will be. The one thing we won't get into hugely breaking down that fight, but Justin Gaethje's jiu-jitsu issues that he showed against Khabib Nurmagomedov are going to be tenfold the problem here against Charles Oliveira. So if that fight comes up, you can be assured I will be betting Charles Oliveira to win that one by submission. I don't think there's much to be thought about that one, but what a fight on the feet. Well, you know, the fight starts on his feet, and you know, Justin Gaethje's very dangerous on his feet, but Charles Oliveira has shown a really good chin and a lot of grit and determination that we always kind of pointed at maybe a weakness in his game. He's very well rounded now. Like you can't really point at much now. You know, he's very good on the feet. Maybe he's not elite on the feet, but he uses his tools pretty well to get the fight to where he goes. So yeah, I think that is a very difficult fight for Gaethje. But with Gaethje, you know, you never know. He comes in there to try and take your head off, and you know he has the power to do it. But yeah, I think Oliveira will be the choice there.
Yeah, it has to be, I suppose. Right, let's talk about some of the rest of the card here. The third fight from the top was Jeffny versus Santiago Panzinia. Split decision there. There was, I think a lot of people were giving out about the 30-27 for Neil. I did think Panzinia won the second, but I wasn't. Or, no, hold on. But there was people were giving out about Panzinia getting around. But yeah, look, I had a 29-28 Neil. I thought it could have been 30-27. Not a great fight. It was a pretty boring fight, to be honest, but it was a great card, so you're going to have one of them on it. But Neil and Panzinia didn't really impress me, to be honest, either of them here, so not a great one. Kai Kara-France knocked out Cody Garbrandt. Look, I thought Cody might have enough for Kai. I thought he might use his size and power down to 125. I think
and his wrestling as well. Yeah, I thought he might. Yeah.
Luke Thomas kind of said that he didn't have a speed disadvantage, and watching back the fight, I actually would tend to agree with him. But I thought someone else said, I think it was PDL MMA, who made a great point that a counter puncher with a bad chin is just the perfect combination for MMA, and that's what Cody Garbrandt was here. He was trying to counter punch a fellow who was just punching him in the face all the time, and his chin was never ever going to live up to that. And you know, I picked him, and it's a pretty stupid pick now, having looked back on it. But great win for Kai Kara-France. I've always rated him. I think he's a very, very good fighter after coming in, you know, through the tough champions time. And a very, very good win for him there. So, you know, Cody versus Frankie next year up at 135. I think that makes a lot of sense. Double knockout in that one, so this should be fun. Sean O'Malley ruined Paiva. You know, a lot of people were talking up Paiva here. And, you know, O'Malley looked good and everything. And he came in injured, and he said, but I don't know. I don't think Paiva is someone who Sean O'Malley should be fighting at this stage of his career. and I thought it was a bit of a walkover. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think he didn't have much for him, but maybe, Sean O'Malley said he was 99% sure when he was lying in bed one night that he was going to pull out. Maybe he would have pulled out if it was a tougher opponent, but he kind of knew, I'll be okay here, and he was, but, I think it is time to kind of step him back up again, Obviously, he has that loss is calf kicks is his only loss on his record. So I don't want to see him fight it anymore, Pavias. I want to see him step back up again, and if he loses, we can drop him back down again. But I think it is time to step him back up. I don't know, who would you like, being a Sugar Sean O'Malley fan, Sugar Sean Sheehan on Twitter? What way would you like to see him go?
I wouldn't mind seeing him fighting Dominic Cruz. They were kind of going back and forth. I don't know, just anyone, someone ranked, someone up there, an Assunção or a fucking Munoz or someone like that. I'm not going to say poor old Frankie Edgar, but I think he needs to move forward. Myself and Ian did the contender on Sean O'Malley, and all the questions that we need to be answered have not yet been answered about Sean O'Malley. He needs that push. He needs to go to the next level. This is not fucking boxing. You're 15-1. It's fucking time. You need that push. Dana White was saying it this week about, we don't do that here unless your name is Shimaev. What about fucking Jai Herbert? What about Reece McKee? What about all the lads coming over from Europe? You certainly don't mind moving them on. Sean O'Malley's ready for it. He's been ready for a few fights. Let's fucking do it. Let's move him up and let's get him going. And, Jose Aldo, let's do it. Fuck it. Let's have some fucking fun. But yeah, he needs to move up. I don't know about
Jose Aldo yet, but yeah. Maybe Dominic Cruz. They're both in on the same similar time frame now.
Yeah, let's do it. Josh Emmett and Dan Ige, close, fun fight as well. Emmett almost knocked him out early. Ige came back. I thought Ige in the third round, it was probably 1-1. And I don't know, did he forget he got knocked down in the first round or something? But he fought a very, very low output, low impact third round.
Cruz to victory when he wasn't winning.
Yeah. And even though I had Ige as one of my bets, I thought Emmett won. And, I think the judges got this one right. So yeah, fair play to him there. Then we had Dominic Cruz, the aforementioned Dominic Cruz, who also almost got knocked out early, but came back to win. I know a lot of people were kind of saying, this is Dominic Cruz of old. He looked the same. He looked good. I thought he looked slower. I thought he looked very, very different. The biggest difference for me with Dominic Cruz is I thought if Munoz was attacking him purely, I think his defense was good. If he was attacking Munoz, I think his defense was good on the way in, but it was the defense after the strikes where Dominic Cruz used to be so good, where I think he had a big issue, and that's where he got hit in the first round and almost knocked out. And I just think that footwork after the exchanges wasn't there for Dominic Cruz, and I just think that speed and that extra step just wasn't there for him there. Now I do think he adjusted and he changed his game. He's not fighting the same way, but that would be the big thing I would kind of look at from Dominic Cruz. Look, Munoz is a healthy matchup enough for him. Like I think Munoz kind of knocking him down was probably a bigger sign of Cruz, maybe not being the same as you could get, but look, still a good performance. Maybe I'm being nitpicking, and look, you have to nitpick when it's one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. But yeah, I wouldn't be along the same lines of other people who say Dominic Cruz is just the same. Like we talked about Aldo a couple of weeks ago, and Aldo has adjusted his style, and maybe he's not as good as he once was, but is still very, very good at a similar style that's been slightly adjusted. I don't think Cruz's style that he is slightly adjusted is as good as it once was. So, what do you think?
I think it's hard when your style is so dynamic and you've been in the game for so long, so many injuries. It's easy to forget how many years of how many injuries, and it's going to slow you down. And the game is evolving, and there is a lot of tape on Dominic Cruz, and people have kind of shown how to get through to him and all that stuff. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. He's obviously getting on in age as well. He's maybe got distractions with other jobs that he didn't used to have. And I think it's a combination of things, but I think he definitely, he isn't prime Dominic Cruz, but I don't think anybody could expect him to be.
What do you think of his stuff with Daniel Cormier this week and calling Cormier out and saying he's not great on commentary and all, and he mutes the TV?
Yeah, thanks for listening to the podcast, Dom. It's good
taking everything I work for, Dominic. What do you think of it anyway?
Yeah,
He was right, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was right. You know, I saw people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have called him out on it." But you know, Dominic said, "Oh, I said this to him. I said this to you. He said it to Cormier. I said this to you a lot of times. It's nothing I didn't say to you." And maybe, you know, people might see it as a dick move to come out to the media, but Dominic Cruz is a man who kind of says what he thinks when he's asked, and you know, I think Cormier should know that, and I think Cormier got a bit butthurt by it. That was really funny, and just the whole thing was just really funny. I don't know why Cormier thought sitting Dominic Cruz down to try and like Big Brother was going to work. He was obviously not going to happen. Like I don't know what the logic was there. I think his opinion of his debate skills are not
wildly overrated.
Not where he thinks they are.
Dominic Cruz just absolutely destroyed him. That was funny. As I was like, oh, what were you thinking?
He tried to bring Bisping in to help him, but it didn't help much.
But he tried to bully him, seeing like putting his hand on his knee and everything. It was just like Cormier has this tactic, obviously, of befriending people, you know, in the media or in wherever it might be. And then, like, whenever they say anything bad about him, he cries and gives out. Like, I thought you were my friend. It's like, well, go fuck yourself. Like, come on. I don't know. Is it
like he says things about fighters all the time in commentary, you know, about things, and if you're going to say things about other people, and then when people say little things about your profession, then you get real butthurt about it. It's kind of a bit hypocritical, I suppose.
And look, everyone's a little bit the same. We're all like a little bit butthurt when someone says something about
fighters are like a sensitive bunch. Like everybody, you know, nobody likes to hear people criticizing them, and maybe because he knows it's true, it hurts more.
Definitely. You could see that. The thing about it was as well, I thought this was his best commentary night ever. Maybe I thought he was very good, especially the Cruz fight. The only thing I would say,
he was under pressure to get it done. He's up all night on that.
In the middle of the apology. In the middle of the Pena fight, he was the one thing I would call about it, he was like, go for a takedown, and she was piecing up a man. I'm like, what are you talking about? Go for a fucking takedown.
He just calls every fight the way he would fight it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. But anyway, Taito Ivasa Augusta Sakai, another classic Taito Ivasa. Didn't show the walkout amazingly. I don't know what they were thinking, but another beautiful finish, another shoey, and another classic from him here. Bruno Silva then very emotional after that, beautiful knockout win. Andrew Munoz got an armbar. I actually missed these first couple of fights because of the fucking the Rona, not the Rona, but the booster had it all taken out of me. So was there anything of note here? The Ryan Hall fight, I got a bit of that, but was that mostly kind of like Ryan Hall on top winning rounds and stuff, or what way did it go?
Yeah, you know, it was kind of Minor kind of played into the game, kind of dived in on just as if he'd never seen a Ryan Hall or had a fight before, or had a major overestimation of how he was gonna fare there. But yeah, it was he offered really nothing for Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall just did what he does, and you know, just being Ryan Hall, shrugging his shoulders afterwards, just kind of like, yeah, what do you want me to do? He plays into my game. I'm gonna take that and win.
Fair play to him, man. And Tony Kelly as well got a good win after winning the All-Star this week. So, you know, fair play to him there. Erin Blanchfield, there's a lot of people talking about her being the next one on the come up, and Gillian Robertson. Also, as well, I must say for Nunes, he is
Herb Dean, World MMA Awards referee of the year.
Don't get me started, please. Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started. But I have to mention Nunes. You know, a very, very good fighter. Someone not to forget, you know, and he's a contender in that 185-pound division as well, so fair play to him. Right, let's move on to Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors 131 and 132. The first night, look, these two Cage Warriors cards, I think on paper they were very good, but then we had fights falling out. We had a Mehdi Ben Lakhtar, George Hardwick fight falling out. We had the 125-pound title fell out, but it still happened, but it wasn't for a title fight. And it was just, it just took away from them a little bit. They were both, I think both of these cards were like on the edge of just being good, and then they were like, after that. But anyway, in the main event of 131, Jatty Milan, who I kind of picked to beat Matt Bonner, just absolutely destroyed him over 5 rounds. Apart from the last round, where he almost got the win, Matt Bonner, there's no giving him whatsoever. But Milan, you know, watching a couple of his fights back, he's a very, very good fighter, and he got a good win there. Underneath that, Christian Duncan and Will Curry, who both fought previously twice, I think, they both got wins. Duncan beating Justin Moore in handy enough fashion, a triangle choked in for Will Curry, who looked absolutely fantastic. You know, he's such like a good physique. It's, even though he lost to Christian Duncan, who's a very, very good fighter as well. It feels like, you know, his physique is something that will take him a long way. And I think the same goes for Christian Duncan. I think he's under the tutelage of Mark Weird and Hardy was saying on the commentary, so very, very good. Ben Elliott then lost to Matters Firminas, just a step too far. It was very kind of on Ian Dean like matchmaking, I suppose. We'll give him one, I suppose, but I still thought Open would win. Having said that, so it's easier to be the general after the battle, as who was it, Artem Lava said. But,
yeah,
I don't know. It looked like a step too far after. I think he'll be back as well. But fair play to Flaminas. You know, a lot of people wrote him off coming into this, and he got the win here. Lovely win as well by Kingsley Crawford. Tom Mearns had a beautiful display against Shannon Dye, split decision there. Luke Riley looked very, very good. Samir Keddy as well, and Neil Bagley and Adam Cullen all got finishes, the last two by rear naked choke, so very, very good stuff from them there. And then last night I actually didn't catch all of it because I was fucking put out by this fucking booster, so I have yet to go back and watch all of it, but what I did catch, Dominic Wooding in the main event, absolutely fantastic. Just came out there. How many seconds? It was 38 seconds and absolutely decimated Carlos Abreu. Called for the UFC afterwards. You know, he's a very, very good fighter. How good is Franz Malambo if this is how good Dominic Wooding is? You know, a very, very good performance by him. Luke Shanks then got the win over Sam Creasy. What do you think they did there, Graeme?
I don't know. When people can't make weight, it's definitely a problem. But you know, we were saying in the podcast before, surely he'll make weight now. But now this is a big question mark over his career, and something that will keep, you know, Cage Warriors from putting them in maybe title fights and stop, you know, promotions like the UFC signing them because you're unreliable. You know, it's all well and good to go in there and look good in the fight, but you definitely need to be a professional as well. So it takes away from it. Like, it definitely does.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to go up to 135. But it's a big decision here for Cage Warriors to make. Like, do they make the title fight next? Do they make the trilogy where they're kind of 1-1? Okay, do they trust him to make weight? It's a very, very interesting one to see what actually happens here. So it's a big decision, I suppose, for Ian Dean and Graham Bylan here to see what way they go. But I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening over the next one. They also announced that Hughes and Vucinic is happening. So we will see how that one goes. Sorry, I just the Formula One has just started here, and Max Verstappen has just crashed in to Luke what's his name, Lewis Hamilton again. But they're still going. So apologies if I'm a little bit distracted. But anyway, I was like, what the fuck, they're crashing into? But they didn't really crash, so it's okay. But I would nearly make the trilogy. You know, I would chance it once more. What's the worst that can happen? You know, you make the fight again. I would nearly do it. But, fuck it. We'll see. The two Figlacks then got 2 wins as well. I caught some of the combining one. Did you catch the other one? The Mike Figlack one? Jamie Richardson got a win as well. There was 4 decisions here in a row, or 5 decisions in a row even. I was like, oh Jesus. It was a bit of a tough one at times, but, overall, a big year for Cage Warriors. What did you think of the two Figlack brothers?
Yeah, well, the Figlack brothers, you know, you can talk about it. The Kent Companion fight was no easy fight, but he went in there and dominated. And, you know, Mike as well went in there against Steve McIntosh, was a little bit of a step up, a tough guy, like been around and fought some tough guys. And they're definitely progressing really well. I think they're on the right kind of path. And, I think, Ian Dean, like 99% of the time, you know, knows what he's doing. And, I think for both of them, it was really good performances, and it was the right step. And I think that, you know, maybe Matthias Figlak is a bit ahead. Like, you know, obviously Ken Companion's a more experienced, maybe higher caliber fighter, but I think the both of them are really, really good prospects. And just because, you know, Matthias is kind of ahead of Mike a little bit in progression doesn't mean that, you know, Mike can't end up being a better fighter. You know, these guys are the real deal, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely think they are, and the fact that they're kind of, you know, I talked to Brad about it, they're both training together during the pandemic and everything like that. It was a real kind of, you know, a camp for them to get better, you know, and to improve with nothing else to do. And I really think that will help them. So yeah, 7-0 on Mike Figlak, you know, he'd beaten Ben Elliott and stuff. Matty is 7-1. He's only lost to Ian Gary. So yeah, you know, I called for the Figlack versus Reece McKee fight for the title before. I think after beating Ken Capina now, maybe could have argued he wasn't ready before that. But I do think I do think it's time, and I think that's probably the fight to make now as well. Right, so next week we have KSW. First of all, Sean Denny's going to have a preview out this week. I'm going to talk a bit about it over in Sherdog as well, I think. But Khalidov versus Soldic, the rematch as well between Torres and Fedine in the or Paranas even. I'm just looking at Fedine here on the thing. Is what a card that is. What a top 2 fight setters, and there's more underneath it as well. But I'm really, really looking forward to that. And as I said, we'll have more on that during the week. And in the UFC as well. Oh, a pretty good card, honestly, to kind of get out to the end of the year. Lots of fights on it. In the undercard, I suppose the one to stick out are Raquel Pennington versus Macy Choison, Andre Ewell versus Charles Jordan. Sajara Eubanks is on the card. Gerald Mershart is on the card. Cub Swanson versus Darren Elkins in to open up the main card. Diego Ferreira versus Matthews Gamrot. Ricky Simon versus Rafael Assunção. Limas versus Hill, Bilal Muhammad versus Wonderboy. What a fight that is in the co-main event. And Lewis versus Dawkins. So this is, I like this. What stands out to you in this card, Graeme?
Looking at it, obviously Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, your boy. I always like to see him fight. He offers something different. He's, you know, maybe he's not as dynamic as he once was, but he still has an absolutely ridiculous striking repertoire. He's so hard to take down. I think this is obviously a tough fight for Bilal Muhammad. Wonderboy versus anybody is Wonderboy's a tough fight for anybody. So that's definitely a good fight. I think the Cub Swanson Darren Elkins fight. You know, Darren Elkins always brings the damage, as he has tattooed across his chest, and he nearly always offers a interesting fight. Like, you know, there might not be the big names on this card that there was on the pay-per-view card, but I think there is some really interesting matchups.
Yeah, as we get towards the end of the year as well, you love a few fights like this. Like Wonderboy and Bilal is one of those fights where you maybe weren't expecting it, but pretty good fight. Look, it's also one of those fights for Wonderboy. If he wins it, he's still thereabouts. If he loses it, he is quickly gone from the top of the ranks. So it'll be interesting. It's a huge fight for Wonderboy, I think. Look, big fight for Chris Dawkins as well, because we put him up there with Aspinall as one of the up-and-coming stars of that heavyweight division. And if he beats Lewis, he's already vaulted right in there to the very top. You know, will the John Jones thing happen after Ganya versus Ngannou? If it doesn't, who's going to be next? He could put himself in there as the next guy, you know, with a win over Lewis, or, you know, depending on what Stipe does or whatever as well. And obviously there's Aspinall and a couple of more as well. But it's a big fight for him, because I think if he wins this and then gets another big fight, he's right there. So a win over Derek Lewis definitely means something. A few years ago, maybe we would have said, you know, it's just, you know, another win for anyone who's any good, kind of. But Lewis is a very, very good fighter now. And, you know, a win means a lot. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. A very, very good card. I'm really looking forward to KSW as well. People should definitely check that out. So, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley as well as next week. But no one gives a shit about that. So we're not talking about that. So, One Championship also have a card, but I think a lot of that is that kickboxing stuff. I don't know. There were, I don't know. Anyway, as well, there was an Aries card at the weekend in Paris, went very much under the radar. I know there was some very good fights on that. Wilson Hayes lost in the main event to someone who's very, very good, and so that's definitely one. Check out the results of that one. But you know, it's good to see, you know, especially the local scene here, but the European scene coming on good as well. It was Tyler Lapalus who won last night. He beat Wilson Hayes. But it's very good to see kind of the French scene, especially. Looks like Cage Warriors are going to go there as well, and you know, it looks like they're coming back to Ireland, which we spoke about last week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a big year for the world of mixed martial arts in Europe as well. But yeah, we leave it there anyway, Graeme. What a night last night. If you enjoyed this, sign up to Patreon, patreon.com/. patreon.com/Severe MMA Podcast. We've loads of stuff coming over the Christmas season. We've a load of podcasts already recorded, so there's going to be no downfall in the amount of podcasts we have. And Graeme, this week on the speakers, or on your 10 years of Severe MMA, you've Ari Lawani. So that's a very, very fun chat coming out on Wednesday morning. I listened back to it already, so it's very, very good. And you go through a lot of the McGregor stuff, and Ariel coming over to Ireland, he's some fun stories and things. So very, very good podcast. So people sign up, you can get, I don't know how many podcasts there are, 1,700 podcasts or something, a lot of podcasts anyway, for a $5. You can get all of them. Sign up for a month for a $5, download every single one of them, and then unsubscribe again. But stay subscribed. But you could do that if you so choose. Right, thanks everyone for listening. Graeme, inspirational quote of the week, give it to us.
Well, not inspirational, Smith's quote of the week.
Okay, yeah, go on.
I'd like to drop my trousers to the world. I am a man of means, of slender means.
We'll see you next Tuesday or some whenever it is. Good luck. Happy Christmas. If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra